Okay, students. So this is the story of the gift of the Magi. It's a very well-known story. It is a part of many curriculums, and the writer is O. Henry. Okay, and this O. Henry, if you have a collection of poems by O. Henry, or if you read other stories by O. Henry, you will realize that O. Henry has a way of telling a story which is spellbinding. Moreover, the stories have a twist in the end, and the gift of the Magi also has a twist in the end. So the story begins with this $1.87. That was all, and 60 cents of it was in pennies. Okay, so uh, this is the protagonist of the story who is counting the money, and this is all she has. See, I want you to enjoy the illustrations. See the picture. Okay, it's not very bright. Do you see? There is the colors used are white, gray. Okay, and there is a lot of snow. Okay, so there are different kind of pictures that you can draw using snow. It can be a happy picture, it can be a sad picture. Most of the pictures that you see, Christmas pictures, snow, and children playing, that's a happy picture. In the story also there is snow, but it's not such a happy picture. It's like very sad, something dull about this picture. And this is the cat I would like you to make a note of, because this appears again in the story. Okay, so this is our protagonist, one of the two protagonists. Protagonist is the main characters of a story. This is the money that she is counting. This is a wedding photograph of the Della and her husband Jim. Okay, so this shows that pennies saved one and two at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher. That means she had to do a lot of haggling, bargaining, to in order to save this money. Okay, and still she could not save more than this. So this is all that she could save. So this tells us that this woman is not well off, she is poor. This is the money box that she has, where she puts her savings. The important thing is that the next day is Christmas. Okay, so when she counted the money, she only had $1.87, not even two full dollars. That makes her very sad. And then she flopped down on the couch and she howled. What kind of a couch it was? It was a shabby little couch. So it shows that, she is not well off. The house is not well furnished. Um, which instigates the moral reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. Okay. Now, here, this woman is crying, and that is why the writer tells us that life is actually, you know, a, a collection, of sobs, sniffles. Sniffle is, when a child stops crying, but still, he breathes heavily. That is called sniffling, and smiles. But what is the maximum of it? Sniffling. So, at least in this story, the writer wants to set the tone that it's going to be a sad story. Okay. and the furnished flat at $8 per week. So that means that, they did not have a lot of money, and the rent was only $8 per week. So that made it a very cheap house, not well furnished, you know, not nothing much to describe about it. So it was uh, a poorly furnished house, and they hadn't much money to, you know, they could not afford to furnish it properly. Now, in the vestibule below was a letterbox. Now, when you enter the apartment building, okay, there is the passage. Okay, that is the vestibule. Now, that corridor has, see these letterboxes here? So, it has a letterbox for every house. Okay, so when the postman comes, he doesn't go from one flat to the other. The letterboxes are here. He puts the letters here, and you can unlock it and take it from here. Okay, so it says a letterbox was there in which no letter would go. That means it was dysfunctional, it wasn't functional. And an electric button from which no mortal finger could coax a ring. That means there was a ring also, like if you wanted to talk to a particular um, ring the bell of a particular house, you would press that ring. But then there was a box also. There was this ring button, but then it could not ring. That means, things were not in a very good shape. This is telling you the dysfunctionality of their lives without money. Okay. Now, also appertaining thereunto was a card bearing the name Mr. James. So there was a card here, okay, and it bore the name of Mr. James Dillingham Young. Now, the Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity when its possessor was being paid $30 per week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, the letters of Dillingham looked blurred. Okay. See, out of earlier, the man of the house, that means the this one, Della's husband, was being paid $30 per week. Now the income has shrunk. So per week from 30, okay, to 20, that means $10. That means $40 less than what he was earning per month earlier. So now that made them give up a lot of things which they could enjoy earlier on. So they could see, out of those $20, $8 went for the rent. So in $12, they had to put body and soul together. Now, in $12, it wasn't possible to, get all these things repaired, to maintain the house well. They did not have all that money. Okay. Now everything is, fading, but only the D part, contracting toward modest and unassuming D. Okay, this remained the middle name. It had faded. Now again, you come to know about the other person. Now he is Mr. James Dillingham Young. He came home and was called Jim and was greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young. That means the husband and wife were still very happy and much in love with each other, in spite of the fact that they did not have a lot of money. Okay. Now she finished her cry. It is as if, it is a, a ritual, a chore, something that she does every day. So she finished her cry, and then, to remove the stains of the tears, she just powders her cheeks, and she looks out dully at a gray cat walking a gray fence in the gray backyard. See, the repetition of the word gray sets the tone of the story, the mood of the story. This means there is nothing bright here. And that cat, I told you, pay attention to the cat. I have to remove this. Yes, so this is that cat. And Della is looking out from the window after she stops crying, and she looks at this. and the scenery outside has no attraction for her. Okay, it's dull, and she is only thinking about how tomorrow, the next day, is Christmas, and she had only this money, this much, $1.87 to buy Jim a present. And nothing could come, nothing, um, uh, you know, worth giving could come from out of this money, okay, which was too less to buy anything, even in those days. Let's move on to the next part of the story. It's a long passage, that is why. Okay. Now, this girl, the narrator tells us that she had been saving every penny. But even after saving so many pennies, every penny, she could save for months. But then she could only save this much. Why? Because she did not get enough money to spend. Where would she get the money to save? So $20 a week doesn't go far. Doesn't go far means it doesn't last much. $20 a week is nothing. So expenses had been greater, and only $1.87 to buy a present for Jim, her Jim. This shows, the love that she still had nurtured for her husband. So many times she would sit and just plan for something nice that she would give her husband, but then there was nothing. Suddenly, she whirled from the window and stood before the glass. Now, this narrow looking glass that was there in the apartment, she stands before it, and her eyes were shining brilliantly, but her face had lost its color within 20 seconds. Rapidly, she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length. So she opened her hair and examined her hair, and now we come to know one of the main, parts of the story, and which is Della's beautiful hair. Okay. Now, the narrator tells us there were two possessions of the James Dillingham Youngs in which they both took a mighty pride. Okay, now these poor people, they did not have much to boast of, okay? But there were two possessions of the James Dillingham Youngs in which they both took a mighty pride. And what was it? One was James' gold watch. So it was a family heirloom. What is a family heirloom? A thing that belongs to your grandfather, and then to your father, and then to you, and then you pass on to the future generations. That is a family heirloom. So this watch was passed from Jim's grandfather to his father, and now it belongs to Jim. Okay. And the other thing was Della's hair. Had the Queen of Sheba lived in the flat across the air shaft, Della would have let her hair hang out the window some day to dry, just to depreciate Her Majesty's jewels and gifts. Had King Solomon been the janitor, with all his treasures piled up in the basement, Jim would have pulled out his watch every time he passed, just to see him pluck at his beard from envy. So now these people are very simple, and how excited they are and how proud they are of their things, that to the extent that they say that if Queen of Sheba is a character in the Bible, in the Old Testament, and she was known for her riches and her intelligence as well. And the same thing was with King Solomon. King Solomon was also known for all the riches that he had and for his intelligence, the wise King Solomon. These two are biblical characters. So they said that Della's hair were comparable to all the treasures that Queen of Sheba had, and Jim's watch, gold watch, was comparable to all the treasure that King Solomon had. Now she is examining, standing before the mirror and examining her hair. Okay, and now the description of Della's beautiful hair. Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade. Cascade is a waterfall of brown waters. It reached below her knee and made itself almost a garment for her. And then she did it up again. Now she's, doing up her hair again, nervously and quickly, because she has made up her mind to do something. We'll come to it, okay, in the next page. Once she faltered for a minute and stood still while a tear or two splashed on the worn red carpet. It's not a new carpet. It's an old red carpet. So these are the things that we have to keep in mind. What are the things that, the points that the writer includes in the story to emphasize the poverty of these two people. Now this is a lovely, scene of the street on Christmas Eve. See, the next day is Christmas, so this is 24th of December. So this is Della. She has put on her old brown jacket, her old brown hat. Okay, the writer has, used these words with an intention to emphasize, how poor these people were. And you can see Santa here on the street. You can see the other people, other enthusiastic buyers, and how people are dressed, properly to combat the cold and all. And then she is going down. And where has she gone? See, this is the sign, the name that comes in the story. Madame Sophrony, hair goods of all kinds. So, any guesses what she's going to do here? One second. Yes, so many of you are raising your hands. Yes, children, will discuss, okay? Now everyone is raising their hands. Okay, so I know now that you know the answer. Yes, you're all right. You've all guessed right. The character is now going to sell her hair. Now this is Madame Sophrony. One flight up Della ran and collected herself. Collected herself means, she caught her breath. She stood up, she stood for a while, and when she could breathe properly, still panting, she went. Madame, large, too white, chilly, hardly looked the Sophrony. Will you buy my hair? I buy hair. Take your hat off and let's have a look at the looks of it. Down rippled the brown cascade. So this is Della's beautiful hair. And yes, of course, the painter has done justice to the story. He's painted the I mean, the hair so beautifully. And you can see Della's sad expressions, and you can see, the appreciation on Madame Sophrony's face. And $20, said Madame, lifting the mask with a practiced hand. So the amount of money that Jim earns in a week, okay? So this was a big amount for Della. So she says, all right, give it to me quick. And so the decision has been made. She is going to sell her hair. Now, once this girl, Della, gets the money, the smile comes to her face. Now, she's here at the shops. She's trying to, one second, I want to show you this. See, the market is full of buyers, okay? And see, Della is looking at things in an excited way because now she has money and she can, you know, go around looking for a nice gift now, and she has a lot of choices before her, and she can afford to buy something for Jim. Now, this is important. After looking at all these things, she found it at last, the perfect gift. She found the perfect gift. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. And what was it? It was a platinum fob chain. See, this is a description. The description is here. The picture is given. It's a platinum fob chain. This chain is used in the watches. Okay, and it was simple, chaste in design. Chaste means it wasn't very intricately designed. Simple design, and properly proclaiming its value by substance alone and not by meretricious ornamentations. That means there was no ornamentation, no, lot of no decoration given to it. No, it was simple. But then, what was the merit of the thing? It was like, Jim, because it had quietness and value. Like Jim did not need a lot of things, a lot of expensive clothes to show that he was a gentleman. Okay, so the same thing went with this gift as well. $21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with the 87 cents. Now, you know why she bought this chain for Jim's watch? With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company. Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it on the sly. On the sly means quietly, on account of the old leather strap that he had used in place of a chain. Now, see, Jim's watch, that watch, the earlier days there used to be watch which people used to put in their pockets. Now, if you've seen the from the waistcoat buttonhole to the watch, there used to be a chain. See, this part of the chain, it used to get put into the buttonhole, and this part got attached to the chain, and then the gentleman used to put that chain in the waistcoat pocket. Okay, you remember in Alice in Wonderland, the Mr. Rabbit took out a chain from his waistcoat pocket, took out this watch, and he says, I'm getting late and all that, remember? So this is the kind of watch it was. And Jim, although was very proud of the watch, but his watch did not have a proper chain. Okay, it was a gold watch, but it had a poor, leather strap. So Jim felt, embarrassed taking that watch out before everyone. So whenever he had to, check the time, he would just take it out quietly and put it back in before anyone could notice the watch or the leather strap. So Della thinks that this is perfect for Jim. Now, what happens is that they took $21 from her. So $20 that she got from Madame Sophrony, $1.87 she already had. So she hurried home with the 87 cents and with this gift that she had bought. Now, children, when she reaches home, she realizes that, her hair has gone. There's, the long hair are not there anymore. Now, when Della reached home, her intoxication gave way a little to prudence and reason. Intoxication means she was intoxicated. Okay, um, she was not in her senses because she was so happy by the watch that she had, by the chain, the fob chain that she got, and she could not believe her luck that she could get such a beautiful present gift, Christmas gift for Jim. So, but then when she reached home, she looked at herself in the mirror, and now reality begins to set in that she has, her hair needs some kind of, you know, uh, helping. Okay, so how does she help her hair? She took out her curling irons and she lighted the gas, and then she tried to give it some small, curls. Okay, and within 40 minutes it took her a long time because we have electric curlers these days. Those days they had these curling tongs, okay, or curling irons it was called, and they had to again uh, put the heater on, and again with using the heat from the stove they would heat that curling iron and then they would curl their hair. So it was a laborious process, but she went through it. She Her hair, within 40 minutes her hair was covered with tiny close lying curls. Curls were so close together and made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. So it looked like a schoolboy who's not a very disciplined child. Okay, so she looked at her reflection in the mirror and she tried to see if she's still looking pretty or not. Okay, but if Jim doesn't kill me before he takes a second look, he'll say I look like a Coney Island chorus girl. So she is trying to be funny also here. There is a bit of humor in the way she tries to. I find this part very nice. She comes back and then she's repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love. Generosity is see. Um, she had love for Jim, but now she was also generous. Okay, she gave her hair in order to buy a nice gift for Jim. So this is a damage done by generosity added to love. See, children, many times in life, you know, we like. I'll give you a very small example. You can identify with it. Uh, you're very close to your friend and your friend has missed some portion and she needs your notebook badly, and you give the notebook to her, and then at home your mother asks, you're studying and you need the notebook and your mother asks where it is and you have to say that I've given it to my friend, and then you get scolded for it. So that is um, uh, the price sometimes you have to pay for being generous and for loving your friend enough to get the scolding for your friend. So this is what Della is trying to do now, to make herself at least presentable so that her husband won't fly into a rage. Now Jim enters the house in the evening. So 7 o'clock, she's made arrangements. Okay, the coffee was made and the frying pan was on the back of the stove hot and ready to cook the chops. So she's made preparations for dinner, and Jim was never late, and she must be hoping that today may God you know, delay Jim so that I can get some more time to get some courage. But then she sat on the table. She sat on the corner of the table near the door that he always entered. Then she heard his step on the stair away down the first flight, and she turned white just for a moment. She was scared, of course, you know. She knew that this was one of the two most precious possessions that the family had. And, you know, she knew how Jim loved her hair. So, getting her hair cut without her husband's permission, it was something very uh, too bold for her to do. And so once she's done it, she is, angry. She's still, very nervous. She had a habit of saying little silent prayers about the simplest everyday things. She must be needing a lot of prayers every day. You know why? Because she couldn't, there were so many things that, they couldn't afford, and so many things that couldn't just go on without God's help. Please, God, make him think I am still pretty. Okay. So this is a very simple, small, sweet prayer that she says, and you will see that um, how Jim will take it. So the door opened and Jim stepped in and closed it. So we get to see Jim for the first time, and we also get a physical description of Jim's uh, of Jim. Poor fellow, he was only 22, and to be burdened with a family. He needed a new overcoat and he was without gloves. So you can see here, this shows that he was, again, some hints here to show the family was poor. Jim stopped inside the door, as immovable as a setter at the scent of a quail. Now, setter is the English setter. It's the breed of a dog. Quail is a bird. So this dog is used to be used for hunting. And as he got the scent of a quail, the setter used to become immovable. So the master would know that there is a quail somewhere. Okay. So he is as quiet as a setter. So this is a simile used over here. His eyes were fixed upon Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not read. And it terrified her. She was prepared for anger, surprise, disapproval, or horror. She had been prepared for all this. But the way he looked at her, she just couldn't understand, you know, what is he thinking? And it made her all the more nervous. Della wriggled off the table and went for him. Jim, darling, she cried, don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold it because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It'll grow out again. You won't mind, will you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what a beautiful, nice gift I've got for you. So now she goes to her husband. You can see the look on her husband's face. Not, he doesn't look angry. He is slightly surprised, but he's looking very shocked. I think he looks very shocked here. You've cut off your hair? Asked Jim laboriously, as if he had not arrived at that patent fact yet, even after the hardest mental labor. So this man says, you've cut off your hair, as if, he hasn't still internalized that knowledge. He hasn't yet understood, what is going on. Cut it off and sold it, said Della. Don't you like me just as well, anyhow? One second. So here she's saying, I cut off my hair and I've sold it, and don't you like me? So uh, he's saying, You say your hair is gone with an air almost of idiocracy. He just cannot. It's like he cannot understand that if the hair is cut, that means the hair is gone. So she's saying you didn't look for it. No, it's sold. I tell you, sold and gone too. It's Christmas Eve, boy. So she is reminding her husband that this is Christmas Eve, and be good to me. Please don't be angry with me, because I am my hair have gone for you. So mm, the hair on the head are numbered. See, it's written in the Bible that every hair on your head is numbered. So she says that maybe the hair of my head were numbered, but no one can count my love for you. So, and then she says, shall I put the chops on, Jim? Because she's trying to deviate him from the you know uh, the topic of her hair. So with this, we come to the end of today's class, children, and we will know what happens next, and we'll analyze the story in tomorrow's class. I hope you all enjoyed the story, children. So did you like the story? Yes, Jigyasa, you want to say something? How did you like the story, beta? Yes, Jigyasa.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, beta. You like the story so far? You like the story so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else who wants to give a feedback on the story so far? Yes, Disha. Anything you want to add? What do you think, Disha, will happen in the end? Habita?
Ma'am, I think Jim also Ma'am, I think Jim also sold his watch.
Yes, that is what would happen. I'm happy that you followed my instruction and you read the story. Okay, so tomorrow we'll come to that part of the story, and we are going to uh, and we will analyze the story, do some questions. All right, so see you tomorrow, children.